What's up, everybody? Welcome to another episode of Brandon's Face. It's the podcast about a playlist. I'm Jonathan Beardsley.
And I am Brandon May.
Thank you all for joining us. We got a lot of music to talk about tonight, but we also have some news to talk about. First, you and I both went to some shows this week. You went to the Under Oath Static Dress tour. This was the anniversary tour for They're Only Chasing Safety, right?
It was.
So
indeed.
Did they play that one front to back and then do a second set of some of the newer, I'm guessing Writing on the Wall, stuff like that?
Yeah, so they closed with Writing on the Wall. They played They're Only Chasing Safety front to back.
Awesome.
And it was honestly fucking awesome. They at the end of the last track on that album, Spencer comes on stage. He's like, this album's pretty short. I don't even think we got 40 minutes there. I screamed, play it again. They didn't want to play the album again, but they did have they played Teeth.
Oh, sick.
And they activated the lasers for Teeth, which was pretty cool.
Right.
They played the new single, not Survivor's Guilt, which we'll talk about tonight, but the other one. And they played Writing on the Walls. They played While the Sun Sleeps. Spencer said it was their first time playing it and doubt he'll be playing it, or first time in 20 years or something like that. And says he doubts they'll be playing it again, which
That's
is
so
pretty
fucking
neat.
cool. That was the first Under Oath song I ever heard.
Yeah, it's a banger, man. They had Aaron Gillespie's kid, 12-year-old, come up on stage and sit on a couch for the final song of They're Only Chasing Safety. And it was, overall, man, it was my first time seeing Under Oath, and God, I loved him. It was a really, really good show. Saw them at the Observatory in Orange County. Real ones who have been know that venue is small enough to be intimate, but large enough to house a couple thousand people. And it's got to be one of my favorite venues. I've seen a lot of different bands there. I've seen Cannibal Corpse. I've seen Cosmic Gate. I've seen Seosin there. It's a really, really neat venue, and I hope it survives, because in my world, that venue is iconic. That's where I saw The Used with my wife do In Love and Death from front to back.
What is the other observatory venue? Is that Santa Ana?
So that's the one I went to, the one in Santa Ana. The other observatory is North Park Observatory in North Park, which is a neighborhood in San Diego. I actually think it's a little bigger than the Orange County one. Yeah, we've seen at the San Diego one, we saw Tegan and Sarah, Glitch Mob, and Taking Back Sunday with Every Time I Die opening at that venue. That's a pretty sweet.
I saw La Dispute at one of them. I do not remember which, but that sounds like an awesome show, man. I saw Under Oath a few times back in the mid-2000s, and despite Reinventing Your Exit being one of their most commercially successful songs at the time, I've still never seen them perform that song live. So you've already seen them perform songs that I have never seen, despite me seeing them on the tour for They're Only Chasing Safety when it dropped. Fucking crazy how that kind of works out. Funny. Yeah, I don't know why they did not really play that song live, but I'm sure that one slapped. Static Dress, did they do Lie Solution?
So they did play Lie Solution, but they have an aesthetic that I wasn't, I guess, aware of or prepared for. I'll send you the photo. They did. The vocalist was wearing a crop top for at least half the show, but they've got CRT TVs up on stage with lyrics flashing. They've got apparently there's some lore and an entire story behind all of their music, which is told through a comic book that was initially released in extremely small numbers to the earliest supporters of the band. So all of the information is out there. I tried to start reading it. I'm a busy guy though, so I couldn't quite get I think it's something 60 different paragraphs of lore that I need to get through.
Are we recreating Coheed right now? Is that what's happening?
So I went with Logan, who is my brother-in-law, who is a massive Coheed fan, wore a Coheed and Cambria shirt to the Under Oath Static Dress show.
Classic Logan.
And both of our faces just lit up when we went to the merch booth, and she was like, "Yeah, there's some lore, so you're gonna have to figure that out." And we were like, "Oh!" So she told us all about it. I guess that's their tour manager. We both after their show ended, both immediately bought the record. I got a sick shirt.
Fuck yeah,
so.
dude, that's awesome, man. Glad you had a good time. Any other thoughts on that one?
Yeah, man. How was Charlie XCX and Troye Sivan?
XCX, Troye Sivan, and do not forget Shy Girl were actually a lot of fun. I saw this was at the Moda Center. This is where the Portland Trail Blazers play. It's the big basketball arena in downtown Portland. So pretty much the biggest venue in this area. You would have to go to like the football stadium up in Seattle for a bigger venue, for instance. So she sold out the biggest arena here, and it was really crazy, man. I saw Tyler in there about a year or two ago, and I honestly don't know what the numbers difference might have been. I think that show was like technically sold out too, but this one was louder somehow. Maybe not musically, but like the crowd volume at this was one of the more deafening like arena shows that I've been in.
Got a lot
it was really fun. The tour ended the next night in Seattle. So we saw the night before the last one. There was no special guest, but like the tour itself was really fun. The production design was very minimal, but they used every piece of it. The runway also like doubled as a tunnel that they could walk through. There were screens, but no like hard cams. It was all mobile cams following them, kind of like that Rosalia Coachella set a few years ago, which I think she really deserves some credit for kind of pioneering this video style live, because it's great, man. Like the way that not everyone's copying Rosalia, of course, but like the way that other artists are using it is really fun, particularly on this tour. Shy Girl's set must have started like at doors open, because we got there like 10-15 minutes after it said showtime, and she was already a few songs into her set, but we caught the last few. She killed it. She also came out at the start of Charlie's for the 365 remix of 365 remix, the Shy Girl remix. That was a lot of fun. Nice. Yeah, it was interesting, like the back and forth between Troy and Charlie in terms of like 3 songs from one, 3 songs from the other, and then sometimes it'd be 1 and 1, and then they would do like 1999 was one of like their big collabs at the end. So, man, it was an interesting show from that perspective. I'm used to like rock arena shows where there's a changeover and sound check and all of that in between. This one moved very fast. It was very loud, very clubby for an arena show, which I think is what they were going for. And it was fun, man. Not a lot of assless chaps, but definitely some assless chaps. For sure.
It's a non-zero number.
A non-zero number, but yeah, not as many as I was thinking. But it was fun, man. The beer line took way too long. That is my only complaint about that tour.
And you'd think the majority of the people going to see Troy and Charlie would be in the bathroom doing cocaine, but instead they were getting beer? Or do you think that was in addition to as well as?
No. So funny story. Right before I hit the beer line, I go in the bathroom, right? And while I'm in there, I hear nothing but girls' voices. And I'm like, oh, that's interesting. Some of them just like must have come in because the women's line is really long. I turn around. It is all girls in there. The whole bathroom was girls. It was one of the more unique restroom experiences I've had, but it was classic Charlie show atmosphere. I will say that. But no visible cocaine being done in the men's restroom. Thank God, too, because that's just fucking gross.
I don't know, man. I'm a little disappointed.
You and I
limited assless chaps.
I will say the bathroom at Gotham Hudson was way, way more intense than the Charlie Troy bathroom for sure.
I'd like to apologize to the one attendant at the Top Golf in Las Vegas. My bad, man.
God damn it. I love that you have to put that out there. Moving on from the concerts that we went to this week, I do have a few more bits of music news. So the details on this Warped Tour revival have come out. We got to talk about it, man. I'm going to say not what I thought it was. Is it what you were expecting?
I actually haven't seen this, so you're going to have to break it down for me.
It is 3 dates only. It is Long Beach, California, Orlando, Florida, and Washington D.C. It is a
not a tour.
2-day festival for all of the stops, and it is $150 for both days. This is not what Warped Tour is. Warped Tour is a 1-day festival, 30-minute sets. The set times are somewhat randomized at like 10 a.m. and who goes on when and what stage just works out the way it does. And it moves on to the next city. You set up some skateboard ramps, a merch village, people have fun. They go on with their life. It doesn't have to be the end-all be-all festival that you plan your fucking life around. Like I think they're going to try and make it. They're going to try and make it a brand, not just a tour. And that was my fear when I saw it coming back. And yeah, that's kind of my reaction to the details. But what are yours?
It's not really a tour. It's the 3 dates you said. Here are my fears, John. I think that for a 2-day festival, $150 is a reasonable dollar amount.
Fair.
That is not necessarily what I would say about Warped Tour, though. You know, like if
keep in mind the original was $25.
Right. Inflation has happened since the early 2000s, for sure. I think for a 2-day festival, $150 is not an exorbitant amount of money. I think that the production value will be not great, which is kind of ideal for a Warped Tour. There should be like a couple of lights and mainly just kids.
But you're paying
stage
above
diving,
a not great price. Like it's not a lot of money.
I think I agree.
$50 a day is more the sweet spot as opposed to $75. But anyways, continue. I didn't mean to cut you off.
Here are my fears, John. My fears are that they're going to book someone like Blink-182 to headline this thing, and it's going to be a massive nostalgia fest. But that's not what Warped Tour was. Warped Tour wasn't about nostalgia. It's nostalgic now, but they should be booking people like, I don't know, High Viz or Tsunami or Drain, Hot Mulligan, Tiny Moving Parts, maybe Anxious. You know what I mean? Like In Angles. It should be a blend of what's happening right now in the scene, and it shouldn't be centered around a gigantic thing like a Blink-182 or a Green Day or a Fall Out Boy. And I'm a fan of all of those bands. For a Warped Tour, it's not arena rock bands. It should be a Warped Tour or a Warped Festival, if that's what we're calling it now. I'm dying to know. From what I did see is that tickets went on sale today or tomorrow.
I'm not sure about that.
And no lineup has been released.
Don't like that.
And that bothers me.
Yeah.
That bothers me.
With it only being 3 stops, I would hope every artist is playing every date when they do finally drop that. But I think your fears is essentially that them bringing back Warped Tour was just going to be when we were young too. And it essentially is. It's when we were young with a few more stops added in, which we don't know lineup-wise if that is reflective of it, but it seems marketing-wise that is kind of the deal so far. It's nostalgia praying. It is not really like... I mean, we're going to have to wait until the lineup comes out. But yeah, I much like you, would like to see them give some veterans that spot to sell tickets, but a lot of newer bands, like the ones you mentioned, get those spots like on the Ernie Ball stages and such to make a name for themselves like it used to be. But it sounds like no matter what, it's not going to be what it used to be. So we'll have to see what it is whenever that happens.
Well, and you and I were chatting about when we were young. You were sending me videos of Silverstein playing this little tiny itty bitty venue in Las Vegas as a sideshow. Hawthorne Heights and Armor for Sleep did a pool party at one of the clubs up there.
The Silverstein one. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. Mike killed it. He went absolutely feral, which is what you expect out of Mike.
It's Mike.
But, I have never really had massive FOMO for the When We Were Young festival, even though all of those bands are like my total jam, right?
Same.
And I think it's because it is, number one, how to put this? Silverstein did Discovering the Waterfront front to back. The Used did In Love and Death from front to back, right? Under Oath did They're Only Chasing Safety front to back. I've seen all of those shows now. Now, granted, I saw Under Oath
Sure.
after
Point taken, though.
when we were young, but the point being is that I saw Discovering the Waterfront on an anniversary tour 10 fucking years ago. It was 2014 in a little tiny venue. I don't need to see it. I don't need to spend money to go to like I don't want that for Warped Tour. Warped Tour is supposed to be dirty and grimy and not filled with fashion. People were wearing seatbelt, like little seatbelt clasp belts back then, and Dickies that hadn't been washed in 14 days. And that's I'm not hating that. That's what I would want from I would want people to show up dirty and grimy and punk rock,
Yeah.
And I really hope that it becomes that, and it isn't a nostalgia cash grab with misspelled merch. Like I really hope that there is some level of soul and
some authenticity
actual like
to it.
Small band authenticity for sure, but also like small band talent acquisition where there's somebody actually looking for the bands that could be the next big things, because tours like Taste of Chaos and Warped really help put people on the map. My Chemical Romance would not be the band that they are without Warped. Neither would The Used, neither would Silverstein, neither would August Burns Red, The Devil Wears Prada. These bands had their start playing to a large amount of people at a really shitty, grimy, dirty, dusty festival. And I would love for that to be what Warped Tour is. A bunch of small bands and a couple of big girls.
Well, let me ask you this to wrap up the Warped Tour part of this segment. It's not coming in my direction, so I don't really have the choice to make either way. I'm not going to drive that far for it. It is going to Long Beach. Is there any lineup or anything that they could do or announce that would make you tempted to go since you're in Southern California?
Funny, I was talking to Logan about this on the way to Under Oath. I don't think so.
Yeah.
Like I genuinely don't think that I want to commit 2 days to Warped Tour. I genuinely don't think that look, bro, if it was like Hail the Sun, Dreamwell, and In Angles with a headliner of fuck, I don't know, Silverstein, right? Koyo on there, like a bunch of the small Pure Noise Records stuff, a bunch of the even have like a Daisy Grenade on Fueled by Ramen, like a bunch of labels coming together and putting their best, bunch of small little tiny labels putting their best bands up front, but those bands are still very small. I think I would maybe actually seriously consider it, but I definitely don't think that it's going to be.
We'll leave that there. We got a few lineups that came out since we last chatted. The Flognaw lineup came out with a very creative crossword puzzle. It's very hard to read if you're just trying to get the information off of it, but it is creative nonetheless, which I expect from Tyler. The Marias stand out to me as the absolute must-see. But what did you think of the overall lineup? You don't have to go into any detail. I thought it was pretty good.
I think that it is more varied than it has been in the past, and I think that festival is going to be a lot of fun.
I agree. And Primavera Sound, another huge one, just announced their headliners. And I don't know if you're familiar.
At the trifecta.
Yes. So if you've been on the internet this year, you have most likely seen a Powerpuff Girls meme with the caption "Chapel Charlie and Sabrina." Primavera smartly capitalized on this. Charlie has already tweeted that she's very happy all three of them are getting this chance. I think that's fucking awesome, man. Charlie is great live. I can say that now that I've seen her. I think all three of them coming together, whether you're a fan of them or not, this is a really cool moment for pop music in the modern landscape. Any thoughts on that one?
Certainly. No. I think that you're spot on. I think that this is going to be an interesting moment, and I think it's going to help solidify all three of their careers. You know that I'm not a fan of Sabrina Carpenter, but I'm a fan of the other ones. I think that Charlie and Chapel are both real people. Sabrina, I think, might have been made in a lab
Girl Meets World was real, man. Okay.
Are you sure?
No, not really.
Yeah, that could have been the start of Disney's AI project. But No, I think that Primavera Sound Festival is actually like really good. There's been a couple of other ones that dropped. I think Cruel World dropped, Go Go's, Depeche Mode, and a couple other ones. She Wants Revenge, etc. It's been an interesting week for lineup drops. I have one other thing to
Yeah.
talk about real quick, John. There is speculation of a before Christmas Coachella lineup drop,
Mm,
which I think is why we're starting to get
interesting.
festival lineups a little earlier this year, because I think Coachella is going to drop before Christmas so that people can buy their family members
Not
tickets
not that
for
they. I mean,
Christmas.
that's going to be interesting to monitor. I think that would be a smart business move in that regard. Like you're going to sell a lot of tickets just for Christmas purposes. In terms of
Right.
lineup, does Primavera does that affect any radius clause? I'm not saying like
No.
Sabrina and Chapel just performed last year and kind of had their breakout performances. I'm not really expecting them. I could see Charlie being one of like maybe not a headliner but a top bold name this year. Would this Primavera spot prevent that?
From my understanding,
It's a
the
different
radius
country.
clause is, yeah, any festival appearances in North America from December 15th through Coachella is that would make you
Gotcha.
out. But I think Charlie has a very good chance of
Regardless, the
showing up.
Primavera spot solidifies all three of them as festival headliners now. I don't think there was ever going back for Chapel
100%.
after this year. She has been booked on multiple festivals before kind of ascending to the level she has, and all of them have had to rebook her on bigger stages or later time slots. She is going to be a closer in 2025 at a major festival. Like that's fucking crazy already to go from a small
I'm
stage
stoked
at
for her.
Coachella this year, you know? Yeah,
I think about it all the time, John, where you threw that album on last year in December. I think it was like the last week of December or
hmm
something like that. And you were like, I just wanted you to hear this. And I listened to it and I didn't know what to expect. And I remember putting it on and being like, God damn, is this good? Oh my God. This is really good. I'm pretty sure I gave it
yeah.
an 8 or a 9. And watching her blow up from listening to the Midwest Princess album to now, I mean,
Insane.
it's been
Yeah,
less than a year and it has just been insane. I hope she is making so much money. She deserves it. She puts on a
I
killer
agree, dude.
show. And that's where I
Before we
believe
get
it.
into the actual playlist this week, something's gone on this last 48 hours that are just like, we have to continue to monitor it, which is As I Lay Dying is in the middle of an album rollout and about to start a European tour. We're about to start a European tour, and everybody, including the tour manager, has quit, except Tim and I believe Phil is still a part of it, although he said he will be releasing a statement in more detail soon. Do we know what the fuck is going on? Because from the outside, it's very weird to be like, yeah, attempting to kill your wife was fine, but we draw the line at whatever the fuck happened here. What could this possibly be?
So it's worth noting that all of the people that just left joined the band in 2022. All of the original
Sure.
members, I think, except for Phil.
Okay.
No, isn't Phil from Unearthed? Anyways, they all joined the band in 2022 after Tim had gotten out of prison. I think it's worth noting. We chatted about it a little bit when they started rolling out, I think, their last album, and I am a fan of rehabilitation, right? I'm a fan of
Sure.
people
Yeah.
actually changing, and I want to believe that in every single person. And until you prove me otherwise, I'm going to take your word
Yeah.
for it, you know? I mean, he did say he wanted to kill his wife and then put action towards that. So you got to believe him when he says
If
something,
nothing
right?
else. Yes.
And and yeah, man, from my understanding, everybody's left. Phil no longer follows the band, nor Tim on Instagram. I don't know this for a
Man.
fact. That's just what I'm seeing on Reddit. There's a lot of speculation. There was some dude who posted on Reddit whose account is now deleted, that saying that there's possibly some domestic violence happening with Tim and his wife,
Oh
which is the
no.
third wife since the one that he tried to kill, by the way. And I am just at this point, Every new piece of information I hear, I care less. I just don't care anymore. I don't even want to listen to the album. The album comes out tonight, and I'm just sitting here thinking like,
Yeah,
I don't think I
the
want to
rollout
listen to
we've
it, man.
covered
You
it's
know,
been decent, but yeah, we absolutely cannot support that. So no, we will not be covering that. That's fucking disgusting.
I'm just done, man.
As
I'm just done. I don't know if that's the case.
yeah,
That's all
yeah.
speculation, right? I guess Tim's wife posted something to Instagram saying that's never happened to me. And I mean, you you got to find a little bit of humor in that, right? Because it's one of those things where it's like, okay, it hasn't happened to you. He did try to kill the
Oh
other
my
one. And all
God.
of that is so real and
Holy
visceral, and it's
shit.
so unsettling,
Yeah.
right? And so we don't know. Maybe we're waiting on Phil's statement. Maybe we're going to wait on Tim's
Yeah.
statement.
Yeah.
Maybe Tim will say nothing forever.
Wow.
Um, I'm a big fan of the opportunity to rehabilitate. I think that felons should be able to get like real jobs after they get out and rehabilitate themselves from prison and
Sure.
do their time and go through the parole system. You know, like that's what it's designed for. And the system that keeps felons from being able to assimilate into society after being a felon is the system that oppresses people in the country. So why wouldn't we want somebody to attempt to assimilate back into the scene or the workforce that they know, love, and are talented in? I hate that he's proven everybody that believed in his rehabilitation wrong, including myself.
Yeah, man. Yeesh. Yeah. Well said, man. Like Justin Timberlake infamously said earlier this year during his DUI, this is going to ruin the tour. It most certainly has. What a fucking mess. Let's move into this week's playlist. We got a lot of fun music to talk about, starting with this new one from Banks and Doechii. I Hate Your Ex-Girlfriend. You already know this is my song of the week, man. It is so good.
I knew it
I wish it was maybe like 30 seconds longer, but it works just great as it is. Great verses, great production. I'm a huge fan of this one, man. What about you?
As always, from both Banks and Doechii, this track is charismatic as hell. Great song.
Moving on, we got a new one from Madon, not to be confused with Madion. What are your thoughts on this one?
I'm not gonna lie, man. I thought this was Mania when I added it. I'm glad to hear it was a good track, regardless.
Yeah, man, I enjoyed it. It's very clubby. Look, I liked the drums on it. It's good stuff. We'll have to check out Madon.
I listened to it. And I was like, this doesn't sound like him, man. And then I looked at it again, and I was like, oh shit, I might be a little dyslexic.
All right, we got this Tin Liquor remix of Hate Townsend. This is the good stuff, man. Those lead synths sound so nostalgic. I can't understand the vocals at all, but I like them. What did you think about this one?
These chord progressions, bro. Like, my God.
Yeah, they are fucking beautiful, man. Tin Liquor is always great with that shit.
Yes,
got this
sir.
new one from Rose from Blackpink and Bruno Mars. APT is the name of it. I've been a fan of the solo songs that the girls from Blackpink have been putting out over the past few years. Even the last one Rose put out back in like 2021, but this is not doing it for me. What about you?
Totally agree. It's okay.
Yeah.
I listened to it twice and then I skipped it every time.
I'm going to say a little less than okay, but it is what it is. She has a full length drop in like December, so maybe we'll check that out sometime. We got a Chris MJ song that Kylie is on the remix of, as well as Jayco. You know, I just blindly added this as soon as I saw Callie's name. I figured she'd have a little verse on it since it's a remix, but she kind of dominates it. Like it feels like a Kylie song, and they put her verse at the end for a reason. You cannot follow that. What'd you think of this one?
Right. Yeah, this was great, man. What I actually love here is we've got the same Latin beat, but the drum effects and the little breaks that they do really made this a little bit more palatable for me, since I hear that same beat every 4 seconds.
Yeah. So yeah, I feel that. I got you. We got this new one from ASAP Ferg, Thought I Was Dead. This is fire, dude. Ferg is not fucking around this year. What'd you think about it?
The beat switch is great because the first half of the track's beat was not good. I like horns in rap. That was not my jam. Really fun track.
New one
Really
from
fun track.
Absol, Jason Martin, aka Problem, and Thirsty P called All That. Thought this one was really good. I really like the Keenan and Kel All That hook. His new project is called
Yeah.
Soulburger. It comes out next month. It's a mixtape that's a tribute to an artist named Doughburger who passed away back in 2021. I'm excited to hear the project in full, man. What about you?
I'm actually a little bit more excited after this
Yeah,
single. So this one's a little bit better for me
I
than his
agree.
last track. The
Yeah,
beat on this one is
I agree.
really good.
New one from IDK and The Artist. This one's called Supernova. Thought it was a good song, kind of in that like Earth Gang, Duckworth realm in terms of the overall sound. What'd you think of it?
You know, man, I've been really loving IDK's output these days. This is no exception, man. The production is really great.
He's a great
IDK floats
producer.
all over this.
Yeah,
I
he's
really
a really
like
good
this one.
producer. New one from Deb Never, Not in Love. I know she released a project last year, but it feels like it's been a while since we've heard from her. This is another trademark Deb Never little indie tune with touches of like Men I Trust and Claro in there. It's great as always. What'd you think about it?
Yeah, this is a little
Yes.
slower than I normally enjoy from Deb Never, but she has yet to disappoint, and this
Yeah,
is no
it is a
exception.
little bit slower. No word on what's coming next, but this was nice. Got a new one from the Beverly Kills, Eyes Wide Open. Thought this one was a good song, man. Didn't really stick with me throughout the week, though. What about you?
I agree. Every time I listened to it again, I was like, "Oh, this is a good song." I've heard this song though.
Yeah, yeah.
Like it didn't like click that I had heard it like half a dozen times. I love this band's style though. I'm curious to see what
Same,
else they
same.
do.
We got a new one from Daisy Grenade, How to Hide a Body. This feels very Avril-ish. It's a fun pop rock track. You said this is fueled by ramen, right? Interesting
Yes.
direction that they're going, but not unexpected altogether. I liked it. What about you?
I really liked this one. I actually couldn't stop listening to this one this week. So much fun, upbeat, talking about how to hide a body from some dude who's cheating. You love
Don't you?
that.
We got a new one from Anxious, Counting Sheep. I was hoping to get new music from them soon. This was worth the wait. Their new album does not come out until next year, but this is a great start to the rollout. New album is called Bambi, by the way. What did you think of the first single?
I really like it. I really hope that they do some more screamy,
Sure.
but I still
The
really like
screams are
this
coming,
one.
I assure you. They'll be there.
I
New one
agree.
from Silverstein, Confession. So this is the start of not one but two Silverstein rollouts that are going to take place over the course of next year. The first album, Anti Bloom, will be released February 21st. The other is scheduled to be released later in the year. Both were recorded in Joshua Tree. I'm excited to hear how they came out. They just played When We Were Young last weekend. Like you said, they played a little Legion Hall show on the side. It looked like they have the crowd in the palm of their hand. They kind of have all the momentum in the world on the heels of When We Were Young right now, and this is a great single to follow it up with. What did you think about it, man?
They actually just announced a tour. I bought tickets,
Ozzy.
obviously. But surprisingly, longtime fans of Silverstein aren't really feeling this song. I think everybody really loves Skin and Bones, and to follow it up with this one is a little different because it's got a pretty different vibe to it. I, however, am super into this song. The strings are great. Everything is very much Silverstein. And honestly, I cannot wait for Anti Bloom to come out. It is Silverstein season all fucking year
Yep.
next year, John. Let's go.
You've never been so ready for an event. Yeah, man, I'm gonna go against the grain here. I think that this song is pretty distinctly better than Skin and Bones, in my opinion. Skin and Bones drops down a few tiers on the spoken word part for me, like the bridge, it loses me a little bit. I get the point
fair.
behind it, but like the way it's done just isn't my favorite. I like pretty much all of this song, so I'm going to give the edge to this one, but Silverstein hardcore fans are not to be messed with, so I do trust their opinion. All right, new one from Magnolia Park, Keizo and Ethan Ross. This one's called Oblivion Eyes. I'm just not ready to dive back into the scene step stuff like this. I see the appeal, but that time for me just feels done, man. Did you like this one?
Oh my God, John, you should have seen how wide my eyes were when I saw Keizo and Magnolia Park had released a song. I don't know what to say about this one, so I'm not going to
Fair.
say nothing.
New one from Anne Boleyn and Maddie Mullins, High Stakes. Bet you loved this one. You've been in a big Anne Boleyn kick this year.
Maddie Mullins has brought this band back to life. Man, they have just been absolutely killing it. I'm feed me Anne Boleyn.
So many bands from our teenage years are not like only active right now, but extremely active and putting out some of their best music in years. Anne Boleyn being one of them. They sound really good with Maddie Mullins on this, like you said. I'm not sure if it's just a one-off or not, but it's really good. We'll see what they do next. Maybe a deluxe. They did just drop that album. All right, we got a new one from LS Dunes called Machines, and it is another banger, big surprise, and an album announcement to go along with it. Their new album, Violet, drops January 31st. This song and that last one, Fatal Deluxe, will both be on it. How excited are you after hearing this one?
I am once again here stating that Anthony Green must be the hardest working dude in rock music. This is a great track, as always, from the LS Dunes boys, and I'm ready for another project.
Him and Craig Owens are going to fight to the death for that title. Craig Owens was just doing Chiodos when we were young. I think he's back with drugs now. Yeah, both of those dudes are built different, honestly. Respect. We got a new one from Poppy, The Cost of Giving Up. We're quite a few singles into the rollout for this new album of hers, and I don't think she's missed yet, man. I think that the metalcore sound that she's locked into for this album so far fits her well, and I am looking forward to hearing the album when it drops. What about you?
I am just stoked for the album to drop already. I really love this one. I unfortunately had to choose between Poppy and Darkest Hour at Mayhem Fest. I chose Darkest Hour. I might come to regret that decision.
I do believe the rumor is she has a new song with Baby Metal dropping tonight, and they are announcing a tour. So if you really do want to see her live, you might have another shot. Just might be with Baby Metal instead. We got a new one from Under Oath, Survivor's Guilt. You brought this one up earlier. You said they did not play this one, correct?
No, they didn't, but they talked about it. Spencer was like, we got a new track called Survivor's Guilt out, and I think you guys should really go check it out. This was right after they played Teeth, and then they played a couple of tracks from Define the Great Line, and they played the single they released before this one, which is like kind of EDM-ish, kind of dancey, really synth heavy. He said that it made quite a splash, is what Spencer said. I don't mind it, and I really like it when bands at this stage in their career, 20 plus fucking years into their career, are changing things up a little bit and putting things out that like they want to make. Like the music world has changed, so like I'm about it, and I actually really think that they did this style of music justice, and I mean, I'm for it.
I am as well, man. I can already tell this is going to be one of their weirdest eras to date when we get whatever project this is all leading towards, but I'm excited for it, man. This track is so different from them. These last two have really been different from them, but if anybody can pull it off, they can. I didn't hate this by any means.
Silverstein did it a couple years ago with Misery Made Me, and I fucking loved that album, and there was auto-tune on it.
I mean, some bands can do it, some can't. I think Under Oath definitely can. Hopefully not a lot of auto-tune, though. We don't need that. We got a new one from Arch Enemy, Liars and Thieves. Not much to say about this one other than it rips, dude. Their new album doesn't drop until March, but singles like this are going to help hold us over until then. What did you think about this one?
Man, I love Arch Enemy. I really miss Angela Goslow. I think that this song was good. It sounds like Arch Enemy, but there's like some soul missing or something. I don't know what's missing because it sounds like Arch Enemy. Like I said, maybe I've been a fan of theirs since like the early 2000s when they dropped Doomsday Machine, and I don't know what's missing from it. Maybe it's an Absol thing with me, right? Like maybe something's missing. Maybe the next single will resonate with me more.
Sure.
But I'm curious to hear what the album, sounds like as a whole. I'm glad you loved
it was really good. I again though, I remember them from back then. I'm just not as familiar with their work, so I'd have to go back to hear like the difference between then and now and see what I think it is missing. But I thought overall this one was good. All right, man, talk to me about the new Haste the Day song, "Burn."
Welcome back, boys. My God, this is how you come back with a banger. It's a fun time, bro. The Silverstein song dropped. I sent that to my May family group chat. The Under Oath song dropped. I was like, let's go. Here's new Under Oath. And then the Haste the Day song dropped. And I was like, my God.
Big day for Brandon's family.
I'm 14 again. I love this one. It's great. It is classic Haste the Day, and I think that's exactly how they come back.
I agree, dude. I feel overwhelmed with the amount of like album announcements and artist returns we've had lately. Getting a new Haste the Day track just made my week, dude. They sound great. Massive thumbs up to me. Shocked this one isn't your song of the week, to be honest.
Oh, did I not say that?
You did not say that. Good. What? I had a feeling. I had a feeling. All right, we got a few EPs to talk about. This one from Stateside is up first. Songs to Remember You By. All three of these tracks are great, but Since Last Season is a massive tune, dude. This EP is awesome. What did you think about these three songs?
Stateside does it again. They incorporate some of my favorite styles of music into theirs, and they do it so seamlessly, John. It feels good. It's played well, and they have my full attention every time it's on.
We got a split, Brandon. Death Goals and Dreamwell. Holy shit. So I just saw Dreamwell, blindly added this. Music to Take Teeth By is fucking incredible. So is Suicide Commitment, but Death Goals, great tracks on here too, dude. Music for Cryptids was among my favorites on the playlist this week. What did you think about these four?
All right, this is fucking fantastic. John, I didn't know who Death Goals was before we put them on the playlist, but they have that Dreamwell vibe, but it's different. It still works. Both of these bands work so incredibly well together. I love the rawness on the vocalist delivery on Music for Cryptids. Dreamwell did their Dreamwell thing extremely well here, and I have to say that Suicide Commitment Issues has to be not only one of the best Screamo songs this year, but also one of the best song titles in all of music for 2024.
It is so fucking good. Glad you really enjoyed this split as well. We got a new EP from Rez and X1Y2. It's called Novus. I thought this one was pretty solid, but also just kind of pretty standard Rez stuff. Eternal was my favorite of the bunch. How did you feel about this release?
Exact same.
Was Eternal your favorite as well?
Yeah, the exact same. It is classic Rez. I don't know who X1Y2 is, but this is a Rez EP, so you can tell by the way that it is.
All right, new Hypnus Records release. Tulsa is the name of this one. New Full Moon, of course, new Hypnus release. What'd you think about it?
Obviously. Another Full Moon comp record from the Hypnus Records subsidiary, 80 Records. I'm gonna be real, man. I like all of these tracks. Like I almost always do on this compilation. This is a continuation of the Hypnus Records community, where they put basically for their basically all of the artists that have ever released anything on Hypnus had the opportunity to submit tracks. I think this is the third EP of its kind. I gotta be real though, man. Nothing comes close to the Hedolus track, Centauri. That track is incredible. The one they open this EP with, no one else has come close on, even like on Hypnus, and that is saying something because I really like a couple of their artists. That track blew me away.
Brent, this might be the quietest techno EP we've ever reviewed. I don't know. I don't know if you realize that. I was like, God damn, this is quiet, but I do like it. I disagree, man. I think Neural Cascade is the standout of these four. I don't know about all of Hypnus. I do agree Centauri is a banger. Easily my second favorite. But Neural Cascade was my jam this week, man. I really dug that one.
That's a really good track, too. I mean, they're all good. Like I said, I like all of them.
One more EP this week. It's from Alarico called the Kriya EP. What'd you think about this one?
Alarico has the ability to make me fucking move, man. Out on Vault Sessions, I could not let any time go by without covering this great EP. Proper hard groove techno that just does not let up. The man
Yeah,
can't
dude, great
miss.
EP. I really loved the title track. He's got a few dates in Berlin coming up this month. I bet those shows are going to be a lot of fun.
Oh, I bet they're going to be
All right,
wild.
man. Are you ready to talk about the albums? All right,
sure
first up, we
can.
got Kylie Minogue. Tension 2 is the name of it. This is her second album in like 13 months, and I think it kind of sounds like it. Kylie is a queen, always has a high level of production, so I knew it would deliver in that regard, but it's pretty generic dance pop, and most of it feels like things we've heard from her or somebody else before. Not a bad album by any means, but it's certainly not as good as the original Tension. It works well as a companion piece or a deluxe edition, but it's really not doing much for me on its own. I'm going to give it a light 6. My standout is Edge of a Saturday Night. What did you end up thinking about this one?
Edge of a Saturday Night is the best album on, or the best track on this album, and that's because this album is not an album. I think it's a B-sides that were just kind of reworked by a producer to sound like a Kylie Minogue album. And I really like you said, she's a queen, a legend in the scene. And you know what?
Padam Padam was one of the best songs last year. Like, she has not fallen off by any means.
100%. And I get it because she'll sell some music and she'll make a little bit of money on some streams. And I'm not mad at her at all, girl. But it's not my favorite from Kylie, even nearly my favorite from her. It's a 5 for me. I didn't dislike any of it. I liked some of it. So there's that. And
I loved you throwing that girl in there. That was nice, Brad. All right. We got this album from the Blessed Madonna. It's called Godspeed. I have listened to this album a lot, but I really don't have like a ton to say about it. I think it's really fun. Somebody's Daughter, Serotonin Moonbeams, Edge of a Saturday Night, which is also on this album, and Count My Love are all great. The production throughout the album is danceable and diverse. It flows really nicely. The vocal performances are unique and genre blending while remaining cohesive to the album. It does run a little bit long at like an hour and 13 minutes, but it doesn't really drag. I think it's a solid 7 for me. My standout is, oh man, I think Happier is probably just one of the best dance songs to come out this year. So I'm going to go with that, man. What's your take on this album?
You know, John, the singles that were released for this project were great. And honestly, a lot of this album is great, which is odd because this album was kind of a trudge to get through for me, like as a whole thing. I think it's like 20 minutes too long for me to stay engaged throughout the whole thing. And I like 70-minute plus albums. Like I do. This just didn't do it for me. Alternatively, though, I actually like the way every track just kind of like devolves a bit into like some quasi improvisational stuff with the percussion and whatnot that, you know, a bunch of tracks on this do, right? I'm conflicted on this one as well because the variety of different styles of like house and big beat that we're hearing, like for instance, you have tracks like Nowhere Fast and then Henny, Hold Up Henny, which are completely different styles of dance music, and that's fine, but it lends to a cohesiveness that for me is less than I would have preferred for Blessed Madonna project. Just maybe not what I wanted, right? And while still being better than it is not great, there's like a few tracks I'm going to come back to a bunch of times from this record. It's just not something that, it's just not a project that I felt I could resonate with because of its length and the amount of there's a bunch of interludes on here which normally like add to an album for me, but for this one it kind of detracted a little bit and kind of stopped the music to talk and then start the music again. It's like a DJ with bad transitions, you know. It's somewhere between a 5 and a 6, and Nowhere Fast is probably going to be my standout.
Hey man, that's a fair take on it. I do think some of this album could have been trimmed. I totally get that. We got this new one from LP Giobbi, Dotr, man. What are your thoughts on this one?
LP Giobbi has a way of speaking to me through her music that is just unlike a lot of artists in the scene right now. This album is straight up gorgeous. We open with a really sweet voicemail message from who I'm assuming is her mom, as the album is titled DOTR, and I said it out loud trying to like figure out what it means, and it's daughter. Um, from there we go like straight into like some of the best sequenced one of the best sequenced dance albums we've gotten this year. Piano abounds on this whole thing, but it's not just like piano house. This album has like emotionality. It has disco moments. It has bass lines that just won't quit, and some genuinely gorgeous moments. I love all the features. The Portugal the Man feature on Bittersweet. I love the Britney / Alabama Shakes feature on Until There's Nothing Left. I love the Madeline Rue feature on 2 Days Older, but there's much more to the features than on this album. Giobbi finds a way with her productions to set the stage properly and of course complement her vocalists and features. I love all the guitar, and at least it like sounds like real bass guitar. It doesn't sound like synthesized bass on this. It actually sounds like real bass guitar to me, at least. If it's synthesized, then you got me. So nice to be in love has this like guitar lick that's just straight up perfect for everything else that's going on in the music. The metered use of strings on Love Come Through is just sublime. Man, I really liked her album from last year, Light Places, but I think I really love this one. It's somewhere between an 8 and a 9 for me. Love Come Through is going to be my standout. What did you think about
You liked it a lot more than me, man. I like this album, but I think I wanted to like it more than I do, which isn't uncommon for me. Like, I liked the singles. I still enjoy those. There's a few album cuts on here, like, really good that I think are great, ironically. But it didn't hit like I wanted it to, man. Or at least it hasn't yet. I fell in love with her last album immediately, but that doesn't mean that's going to be my experience with every new album she puts out. The track with Brittany Howard is still my favorite, but overall, man, this one's just a light 7 for me. I think it's a good follow-up to Light Places, but Light Places still reigns supreme for me.
Interesting. I actually liked this one a
That's
little bit more
fair.
than Light
That's a very Brandon take, too, for you to zig like that when I zag, but that's fine. That is fine.
Hey, you know what? That's okay, man. That's what this whole thing is
Exactly.
about. Us talking about and disagreeing about music.
Let's talk about this Carnosus album, man. Wormtales is the name of it. Give me your thoughts.
What a switch going from LP Giobbi to Carnosus this week. You had this like soft and sultry house record with like real bass guitar to a just crushing Willow Tip release. I guess this is actually a thematic prequel to their 2023 album Visions of Infinility, which I actually haven't had the pleasure of listening to quite yet. I will, but I haven't quite yet. Avid listeners to our podcast will know that I am and have been a pretty big fan of Willowtip Records. I've always liked how diverse their releases are. And I kind of like knew to expect some death metal with this one. What I didn't expect, though, is how extremely varied the vocals were going to be. We have some disgustingly low lows on this. We have some Danny Filth levels of high highs. Of course, the pig squeals are next level as well. But the vocalist isn't even like the star of the show. Is not doing the heavy lifting here. The fact that there's a solo on almost every track here with fantastic melody is so cool. I think guitar solos should come back into style, John. The riffage is great and gives way to, though, in my opinion, the star of the show of this entire album, the drummer. These groovy and heavy riffs and the incredibly varied vocals would not work as well as they do without the immaculate double bass grooves accented by blast beats, accented by fantastic fills. Even tracks like Worm Charmer show off like even like the bassist chops, dude. At 40 minutes, it feels too short. It's filled with content. It's ever engaging. I loved this album. This album fucking rules. The last minute of Paradoxical Impulse is fucking wild. It's an 8 for me. Paradoxical Impulse is going to be my standout. What did you think?
Yeah, dude. The album is really golden and all, but did the dude roll an R into a scream on Birthless?
A number of times, I actually think that
Uh,
happens on this album due to Swedish.
I've
So
never
good for
heard
him.
a
I
rolled
couldn't do
R
that.
in a scream like that. It just give this person all the awards. We listen to a lot of metal. Don't think I've ever heard it done like that. Moving past that though, if that's possible, this album is loaded, dude. It's as heavy as I expected, as technical as I hoped for, but the vocals, they feel like they have some extra venom behind them on a few of these tracks. Within Throat, Within Heart is a great example of that, but the whole band just really brought it on this one. Even though moments of this album weren't my thing at times, they were more often than not. The heavy riffs in Neglecticon and those growls on like what is it, Cosmo Claustrum, obviously fantastic, man. The shredding on this album is ridiculous. It checks all the boxes. I'm gonna give it a strong 7. My standout is Birthless.
Hey, Birthless is a really good track.
All right, moving on to this one from High Viz called Guided Tour. So I stumbled across this band just a few weeks ago. I don't know if you had previous knowledge of them or not, but I gave Mind's a Lie a listen, saw they had a new album coming out, hit follow, now we're here. I'm not sure what I was expecting based on the brief listen that I'd given them, but I have not been able to stop listening to this album since it came out, man. Guided Tour kicks off things properly. Worth the Wait is one of my favorites on here. That bridge on Feeling Blessed is worth listening to the album alone. Mind's a Lie is still my standout, though. It's one of those tracks I knew I would be listening to a lot after the first time I heard it, along with the rest of the album, I guess. It's all really well done. Solid 8 for me. What did you think about this one?
That is great. I'm really glad that you like this one. There is something about British dudes yelling at me about political stuff that just makes me feel all warm and fuzzy, John. High Viz has been making this kind of like chill coded yet still kind of hardcore punk music for a minute, and I, for one, fucking love it. I was aware of High Viz. I don't think that we've covered them on the podcast though. I found out about them in 2023, and I'm not sure that they've had like a release since.
I don't think so.
I they've got this like this moment where, well, not moment, this like vibe where like they can they can have energy where it counts, and they're not afraid though to like elongate their tracks and let things breathe when they need to. This helps add like melody and little quirks to their music and like makes sense. Like it makes common sense for like a musicality standpoint. At almost 40 minutes, it's long for a punk record, but I don't mind it that at all. It shows off their Britpop influence pretty well here. This is like if Blur decided that they wanted to be heavier and like actually punk rock, which is a gigantic compliment. The lyrical content on this album, though, John, is exceptional. I'll leave you with an excerpt. Please don't say a thing. I know the pain that pain always brings. Trauma forms an almost perfect ring is one of my favorite lines on this album, and it really gets me. It's off of Fill the Gap. But honestly, you could throw a dart at this album and find some lyrical content that you'll like find means something. I really like this album, as is tradition. The Brits know how to fucking rock. It is also an 8 for me, but my standout is Gone Forever. Those words are hateful and just amazing. The tongue is indeed mightier than the pen is indeed mightier than the sword for that.
Yeah, man,
song.
this one and that Soft Play album from earlier this year are just really making a big impact on the playlist in terms of Britpunk. I'm a fan. I really like it.
Great, I'm glad you do.
Got one more album to talk about this week. It is from Bare Hands, The Key to What? What did you think about this one?
So I've been a big fan of Bare Hands for a while now, since their release of their album Distraction almost a decade ago. I think it actually has been a decade. My wife and I listen to their records quite a bit, so needless to say, I was pretty excited for this drop. And I'm very happy to announce we got a new Bare Hands record that makes me feel the exact same way as their previous records have felt. You can tell by the way that it is. This kind of indie rock just makes me nostalgic for times when indie was like on top of the world. But not only does it make me a little nostalgic, because I feel like this album is both topical lyrically and fresh sonically. Tracks like Floor It and Dial Tone are very much the same old bare hands that I've known to come and love, but tracks like Intrusive Thoughts and Mosquito Song, they're both like these like synth-laden dance pop tracks that not only stand out on the album, but work really well with the sequencing of the album while still helping to make it feel as fresh and contemporary as it does. Their music is just fun, man. It's filled with little moments while still having some moments of heavier and like relatable lyrical content. They don't take themselves too seriously while taking themselves the appropriate amount of serious, which is kind of a hard line to walk, and I think they do it pretty well here. I'm actually surprised that this band isn't more popular than they are. They had a couple of major hits off of Distraction, and I can count like a couple more on this one that have the potential and the sound to be hits as well. Unfortunately, though, I don't think they will be. But this band has always been one of the sleepers in my collection of music that I'll always pull out. When this one arrives, I will continue to have their entire discography on vinyl, and without a doubt, this album will get a bunch of spins from me and my wife. Bare Hands has a catalog for me full of 7 to 8s, and this one's no different. I'm going to give this one between a 7 and an 8. My standout is Intrusive Thoughts or Floor It, but Moonwalking on Eggshells is a really good song too. I have just been dying to know what you thought about this album, though, John.
So you liked it a little more than I did, but I think that was kind of expected when I went into this one. I always knew you would. I enjoyed it though, man. Disappointingly, I don't have a lot of takes about it. You literally have a lot of my same exact notes. My favorite songs: Intrusive Thoughts, Moonwalking on Eggshells. I also like Flying Skimtar, man. That one fucking rips. I think that they just like scratch an itch in the kind of like alt indie world that not a lot of bands are able to do, because it's such a hit or miss style, but I think impressively they hit more than they miss. And that's really it, man. I think that the songs I mentioned are my favorites. There's some songs that didn't land for me quite as much, but I wouldn't even be able to tell you what those were just by name. So, like, it was a fine line with this one. It was easily between a 6 and a 7 for me. I enjoyed it. But yeah, man, I'm glad you love them. I do look forward to listening to more of their music with you, for sure.
Fantastic.
All right, man. Next week, we have a busy week as well. We got that new Tyler, the Creator album. That will not be dropping until Monday. So people that follow the playlist, look for that update. You and I will have to kind of do some rush notes on that one. We got new albums from Amyl and the Sniffers, Better Lovers, Fit for an Autopsy, Megan Thee Stallion, Reggie Snow, Soccer Mommy, Underworld, Two Shell. A lot more. It's going to be a crazy one. Make sure you tune in.
Wait. Those are all
those are all albums that drop, and we'll be able to make room since As I Lay Dying is not a band anymore, apparently, or something. For those of you that follow along with the playlist, and for those of you who don't, check the link in the show notes. Follow along with our rotating playlist. That way you know what we're going to be covering on every episode. Find us on Instagram and Reddit. Just search Brandon's Face Pod. Give us a follow. Same with YouTube. Give us a thumbs up. We will see y'all next time. Peace.
Peace.